Testing. Ooh, that's good.
Now, stand where you're going to stand. Move your computer. Move the keyboard in front of you.
Yeah, I think he's good. Bom dia. Esse é só um teste, pessoal. Podem ouvir bem falando daqui? Testando, testando. Dá para ouvir bem? Não precisa gritar. Dá para ouvir com o microfone, não é? We're safe, we're safe. And I also can, yeah. This looks perfect. I don't need my computer. Yeah. Because Alan is going to...
Does he have slides?
Maybe. Like something about the event. Well, he can manage this. Yes.
Don't close it because it's easier when you start. If it's open.
But I was talking low. When I'm presenting, I project my voice.
Stay like this, but it's uncomfortable if you stay.
No, but I can project my
Yeah,
voice.
if you project, it's better.
I am going to present like that.
So
No, but just
speak out loud.
Or use the computer. Maybe I can use your book. Here?
Are you sure you want this?
No, to get it closer. Can I use your book?
We can find anything else.
Like this, so anyone
Turn it
can.
around. Turn it over.
Good.
Yeah. If you stay
Better?
here, it's good. You don't move too much, like to your side, to the left, to the right.
Perfect.
Good. Open your slides. Just test it again.
Okay.
Right? Also for...
Here.
see it.
Yeah.
Just click.
Yeah, this. Yeah.
Want to go back on the soundboard and see if it's there?
Sorry?
You want to go back
É
to
um
the
teste
soundboard?
novamente, pessoal. Tá melhor agora o som.
Fala no volume que você fala.
Assim, eu não sei falar no volume que eu vou falar, só na hora. Tá bem assim? Tá melhor do que a primeira vez? Ô, Alan, pergunta lá se tá bem, se estão a ouvir bem. É lá no YouTube channel, né? Melhor? Perfeito.
Good? Let's start.
Bom, boa tarde a todos e todas. É um prazer dar início ao Data and Digital Method Seminar 2025, aqui na Escola de Comunicações e Artes da Universidade de São Paulo, e também dar as boas-vindas a todos vocês. Eu sou Alan Angeluci, coordenador do grupo de pesquisa Smart Media Users e professor aqui da Escola de Comunicações e Artes. Esse seminário ele faz parte da série anual Data and VAR Seminar, organizada pelo grupo de pesquisa Smart Media Users, com o objetivo de aprofundar debates sobre temas que relacionem dados, comunicações e cultura digital. A cada edição, escolhemos um tema que reflita os desafios contemporâneos da pesquisa em comunicação e informação. Em 2025, o foco é métodos digitais, com ênfase na crítica e na aplicação de métodos digitais em análises sociais e culturais. Gostaria também de agradecer à Universidade de São Paulo, USP, à Escola de Comunicações e Arte, ECA, à Pró-Reitoria de Pesquisa e Inovação, PRPI, ao Conselho Nacional de Desenvolvimento Científico e Tecnológico, CNPq, e à Associação de Apoio à Arte e Comunicação, ARCO, por todo o apoio institucional e financeiro. Também a todos e todas pessoas inscritas que estão nos acompanhando aqui presencialmente, e aos que nos assistem na transmissão ao vivo pelo canal da ECA-USP e pelo YouTube. Muito obrigado. Aos participantes presenciais, pedimos que vocês assinem a lista de presença, que vai estar disponível para vocês numa pausa que a gente vai fazer entre a fala da professora Janna e do professor Richard. Para quem está nos assistindo de forma online, a gente pede que vocês fiquem atentos, que ao final do seminário vai ser exibido um QR Code e um link temporário para o registro de presença, que é uma condição necessária para aqueles que demandaram aí o envio de certificados. Tá? Então, a partir desse ponto, o seminário vai ser conduzido em língua inglesa, considerando que os nossos palestrantes convidados, a doutora Janna Joceli Omena e o professor Richard Rogers, apresentarão suas falas nesse idioma. Therefore, from this point on, the event will be held in English. So, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Data and Digital Methods Seminar 2025 here at the School of Communication Arts, University of São Paulo. And a warm welcome also to those joining us. I am Alan Angeluci, coordinator of the Smart Media Users Research Group and professor at the School of Communication and Arts at the University of São Paulo. This seminar is part of the Data and VAR seminar series organized by the Smart Media Users Research Group, which aims to deepen discussions at the intersection of data and communication. Each year, the seminar explores a different perspective on how data-driven approaches shape our understanding of media, society, and culture. This year's edition, Data and Digital Methods Seminar, focuses on how digital methods are being used in cultural and social critical analysis, especially to explore algorithmic and visual mediations on digital platforms. Our schedule today includes 3 main sessions. We will start with the talk, Image Networks and Visual Inquiry by Dr. Janna Joceli Omena from King's College London, followed by a round session of questions from the audience. We'll make a very short pause, and then we're back in the sequence with the keynote lecture, Machinic Critique, Algorithmic Auditing by Professor Richard Rogers from the University of Amsterdam, also followed by round sessions of discussions and questions. Then we will celebrate the launch of the Portuguese edition of Doing Digital Methods, Métodos Digitais na Prática, by Richard Rogers, which I had the honor of translating. And we will finish the day with the book launch closing cocktail just next door of the auditorium, so you guys can go to the other room. And now, without further ado, let's begin our first session. It's a great pleasure to welcome Dr. Janna Joceli Omena from King's College London for her talk. Please welcome. While she's getting ready for her presentation, let me introduce her. She's a lecturer in digital methods, assistant professor in the Department of Digital Humanities at King's College London. Her work bridges practice and theory of digital methods, focusing on computational media from conceptual, technical, and empirical perspectives to advanced reproducible methodologies and research software. Her research examines how AI, web technologies, digital objects, and software shape method design, implementation, and knowledge production. She established Portugal's pioneer digital methods school, the Smart Data Sprint, from 2016 to 2023, and authored Métodos Digitais, Teoria Prática Crítica, 2019, the first edited collection on digital methods in Portuguese. She's also a member of the Public Data Lab and the Alan Turing Institute's Knowledge Graphs Interest Group, and a collaborator with the Digital Methods Initiative. Thank you, Janna. Please, the room is yours.
Thank you, Alan, for this introduction. Thank you for having me. Hello, everyone. How are you doing today? Good. Hi, everyone online. It's a great pleasure, really, to be here in my country. It's close to my heart having this opportunity to talk about my work and about digital methods and kind of providing this, let's say, opening short talk to someone that I hugely admire, and it's Richard Rogers. So, shall we start? My talk today is about image networks and visual inquiry. And what I want to do is to define image networks, bring some examples, and then situate image networks as a method, as a digital method. After that, I wanted to bring some key components that we should bring with us when we use image networks as a digital method. Then I'm going to conclude with these visual insights, showing you two concrete examples in how these visual inquiry to networks can lead to insightful findings about a topic. Let's move on. Well, image networks are research and methods construct that render relationships between images, their attributes, and their web contexts, where connections are drawn from online publicly available data. That was like the best definition that I could find to define these networks. And from now on, I'm going to bring a couple of examples of networks. I'm not addressing the research questions, I'm not addressing the findings, I'm just bringing the example so you can bear with me and so you can have an idea what you can do with these networks. However, in all slides you can see the references and the links that you can consult the complete paper or report about these projects, okay? Let's say we can have networks of images and associated hashtags to study a polarized perspective. This one here, it was before presidential elections here in Brazil. Ele sim, ele não, who remember that? So this is one example. Another example is network of images and best guess labels. So this is an exploratory study of populist leaders on Instagram. So it is taking images from official accounts of them and looking at web context-related associations with them. There is also networks of images and associated prompts. So who here is like using AI, ChatGPT, and other related models? Yeah, right. So this network, it's like a result of a longitudinal prompting technique. So we spent 6 months prompting ChatGPT and getting the outputs, and also the links associated to the text. So what you see there is basically the prompts in black, and the images are associating with the links corresponding to the knowledge source to provide the information about that prompt. Profile following networks, image account profile, and the accounts they follow. So this, it's part of a big project studying political bots, also in the context of Brazil. And here we were looking at the role of ghost accounts and how central they are in these following networks related to pro-Bolsonaro and anti-Bolsonaro bots. Network of images and associated emojis, right? In this sense, you see the images, they are clusterized because people have reacted. So you see the reactions on Facebook. And the full report of this project is in this link, if you're curious about. Network of images and domains. Now we are talking about image circulation in a sense. So there you see like a historical perspective on climate emergency images and associated sites of circulation. I think this is the last one, network of AI-generated biodiversity images and associated labels and entities. And this is like a cross-platform network because you have like image collections from generated by different models, right? And this is just, let's say, the critical summary of the different areas of the networks. As I said, this is not comprehensive, but I think the limitation is the researcher imagination and creativity to work with this type of networks. And now what I want to do is like to situate them as a digital method in 3 ways. First, I wanted to focus on what is the analytical focus of this method, online image collections. What they are made of. They are made of digital objects. Beyond images, they are made of digital objects and established AI models. And what are the contributions of these methods to the field of visual methodologies, if you wish? So starting with the first point. So there is like this shifting approaches in images, right? Because we're moving from analyzing single images to analyzing image collections. And recently there is also like this debate in accounting for the nutritive and technical environment where images come from, that we as central or as to be considered. So there is like this shifting perspective. What constitutes these networks? So these networks use digital objects such as hashtags, domains, entities, and other digital objects, right? And we can say that these digital objects, they not only shape, but they also reflect social, cultural, and political practices. In a sense, it's like a reflection of society in a sense, and we use like AI established methods in the sense that it is already recognized that machine learning models are quite good for classifying images, and also the potential or the descriptive capability and the critical potential of large language models and VLMs to describe image collections. Finally, in terms of like expanding visual methodologies, we understand that this method, they bring these web-based perspectives to analyze images, also technical perspectives. They provide a non-big data alternative with the quali-quanti visual methods approach, and they also account not only for what we see in the network, but what precedes network visualization, which we understand as a contribution to the field. So that's me situating these methods, but yes, they can be effective, but not always the right method. So I just wanted to share these huge, let's say, visual method grid to situate the many other possibilities that maybe many of you are aware of, that we can analyze images, image itself, image metadata, and semantic web context of images, and we can focus on different methods, and we can focus on different visual models to analyze images. So networks are not the only way of doing it, and sometimes we don't need image networks. And this is what I mean by this grid. It's not a comprehensive, but I think it's a quite good summary of what we look at and what we can do when analyzing image collections. So image networks are situated within also a broader field of visual media analysis, including tool making. And again, I just have like a timeline, quick and dirty timeline, but it gives us a sense of, the production of tools to make sense of image collections that starts back in late 90s. And some of these tools were repurposed, right? For instance, I have to bring the microphone with me, right? So for instance, ImageJ, that was created for biomedical image analysis and manipulation, later on was repurposed by the Software Studies Initiative with the image plot macro plugin to run within this software to study cultural patterns. And then we see, in a sense, the cultural analytics, a kind of field or approach. Are we good so far? So moving to the second part, visual inquiry, I wanted to bring now some core elements that I believe it is important for us to bring with us when we analyze these type of networks led by exactly these visual affordances. Well, is there anyone here that work with networks? And maybe online? I cannot see the hands, but please raise your hand online if you work with networks. Networks are representations of data, in a very terrible way of explaining, right? And then in this type of networks, we have two types of nodes. Usually you have like nodes and links that connect the relations. With image networks, if you wish, they often are bipartite. So we can think the white ones, the white nodes here as images, and the black nodes here, what connect them. That could be digital objects, that could be like a hashtag, that could be image metadata, a reaction on Facebook, or a AI output, a label to classify what is in the image, right? And that means the edges is dependent on your decisions. That's a good, let's say, core lexicon of network graph to understand. These networks, we can plot the images, so it could be with images or without images. Yes, there are ways of analyzing images without seeing them in the network, but however, using the image folder to support the analysis. So, image networks facilitate single platform and cross-platform image analysis. How? So, one network visualization, you can have one image collection come from one environment only. One social media platform, a meme repository, a page in a news media outlet, just one environment. However, you can also, in just one network visualization, look at two different image collections within the same network, such as the hashtag ele sim, ele não, right? Two collections coming from different hashtags. But you can also look at cross-platform. You can organize your network, the same topic, but images coming from different platforms. Network reading is influenced by how the network is constructed, the meaning of the node connections, and this meaning is the researcher choice, and the type of force-directed algorithm used to shape the network. So I'm going to briefly unpack this. So let's imagine again, I like this example, it's a node one, and I'm sure that the audience is going to connect. Let's go back to this hashtag of ele sim, ele não, and associated images with pretty much clear the separation. One of the findings here was the presence of human beings in ele não, and the lack of human beings in ele sim, pointing out to automated agency back then in 2018. Let's think about this one. So, and up there you have like the process of network building until the visualization. So before the network visualization, thinking the hashtag as your entry point to make your image collection, we may want to ask, which hashtag, right? Do I have to use a hashtag? Which one? A more generic one? A specific one? How users are using this hashtag over there, and how bots are appropriating, because they do appropriate. Don't mistake yourself. They are always appropriating of hashtags. And then you have like these decisions to think in how you're going to curate carefully your image data set, because you're going to end up analyzing the results of your decisions, right? And the tools. And also you have to think about what's like the technological grammar of the platform. For instance, the rate limit to collect data, metadata, what you get from that. In building the network, you need to think about, well, what's going to be my nodes? Do I want to include like a property in my nodes coming from my data or data that I created, qualitative speaking? In network visualization, you have to think about the shape of the network zones, and the navigational procedure. What is this navigational procedure? So imagine when you build these networks, the network is not the final product. You have like many other resources that help you to do the analysis, such as your spreadsheet, your notebook. There are people who cluster the images by color to facilitate. You look at your image folder. You can annotate digitally or you can annotate manually your notes. That's the navigational procedure. So you go from here to there and you are like having insights throughout the process. Visual inquiry with force-directed layouts. Well, these are like algorithms created to shape your network, right? There are many possibilities. Is there anyone here who works with Gephi? Yeah, okay. Online, raise your hand. Do you work with Gephi? So if you do work with Gephi, you may know that there are like many options for you to shape your network. Right? We use a lot the false atlas too, because the spatial distribution of the nodes is meaningful. So they spatialize the nodes based on attraction and repulsion forces. And the repulsion forces, the degree of the node counts. Why is this important? Because the degree of the node is the number of connections one node is capable of like accumulate. If your network has an image and another object to connect them, it is important. So, and because of that, in practice, right, we argue that you can read this network based on these fixed zones of interpretation, rather than looking at only the size of the nodes, because each area of the network can tell you different things, depending on your research questions. And that would look like something like that, but I'll be back in a minute on this in practice in the third part and the concluding part of my intervention. So when we think of visual inquiry with networks, there are all these aspects that we need to consider. That means we read what precedes and shapes the network visualization. So what I'm telling here is that you have your topic of study, feminism. But then these elements, they shape and reshape your topic, right? And then you have the idea is that you bring them with you to help in your interpretation and enrich your knowledge or help you to respond to your research question in a different way. Now I'm moving to the final part of my talk, which is like the visual insights with two examples. So, and to these two examples, they are using one digital method, which is the computer vision methods. Yes. And basically, these methods work with image collections. And to interpret image collections, use AI and visualize these images through networks. So through these methods, we can make sense of images themselves, so what we see in an image, the web context of the images, and also the image circulation. So these two examples, they are using this specific digital method. And of course, that means image interpretation account for what precedes the network visualization. Well, the first example is the AI-generated images. Back in 2023, when everyone was trying tests and generating images. Is that your case? Have you Do you remember this phase that we started, let's create images, right? And then, as many of us, Renata Souza, which is like a feminist, a politician, an activist here in Brazil, she did the same, right? But as you can see, that's the image that she got. And I'm just going to read, if you allow me. That's okay if I read them. I translated that because back then we were asking how come it is still possible to have outputs like that. And then, so she asked Microsoft Bing, we translated to English, however, this is her post on Instagram, if you wanted to double check. A Disney Pixar inspired movie poster with the title, Renata Souza. The main character is a black woman using afro hair tied up, dressed in African style blazer. The scene should be in the distinct digital art style of Pixar. A favela in the back with a focus on the character expressions. Expressions. I'm not telling which expression, right? Vibrant colors and detailed textures that are characteristic of the animation, the Pixar style, with the title Renata Souza. And that's the image that she got. And because of that, we run this study across 9 modules, right? And we asked, how do different visual generative models respond to the same prompt, her prompt? Do other models also generate similar or different racial stereotypes? If they do, how they do it, right? So what we did, we used her prompt and we created a generic prompt based on her, and one of the conclusions is most of the modules out of 9, they tend to depict black women as these like women as a sign trope. They are all young, skin, beautiful, and that's the main idea. And out of 9 models, again, Microsoft Bing was the only one who again would generate black women. Yeah, they are gorgeous, they are amazing, but 2 of them are holding a gun, right? And the other 2, there is like a gun associated. So this issue is sticked with Microsoft Bing AI. And how would go the network reading for that? So you have like the nodes are the images generated by multiple models, right? And here the output was labels and entities. And then the logic of center, mid-zones, and peripheries, like the center, you will find communalities. Who works with networks, as we know about that, right? And shared associations about the images. The mid-zone, you find connections spanning 1 or 2 image data sets coming from specific environments, but not all of them. And the peripheries, for me, they are the most special ones because we have exclusive and a specific perspective on that. So in this study, I'm not sure if you can see, but here in the periphery area, we identify from DALL-E, images generated by DALL-E, these gaze of these women, angry and surprised. So it was one of the things that we look at. And also, of course, this lack of cultural, social background, because Cryon doesn't know what a favela is, right? And Artflow at least attempted to represent a favela in different backgrounds, but not a favela. And this is like some just like small things about this project, just an example. Now, the second example is the Get Images, Women and Men collections. And we just, we focus on these 2 collections because they were consistent in Get Images. And they could help us to have this robust and comparative analysis. This project was interrogating Vision AI, across services, Google, Microsoft, and Clarify. So we were more interested in understanding the AI outputs. And then we asked, what are vision AI layers of characterizations towards gender? This was a sub-project in this research. So the visual inquiry here, so you have a single platform, but 2 image collections, and then the shape of the network is different, but your nodes are images and AI outputs. On one side, you have image collections representing images, and the other side, image collections representing men. How to read? The center, you find the most occurring labels, revealing Vision AI hierarchical classification. So you see smile, flash photography. The mid-zone, you see labels that either call more to classify women or either more to classify men. And these are shared labels in both data sets, right? But in the periphery zones, you see the exclusive labels that mean classification only for women, classification only for men. And because of this visual insight, and we were interested in looking at these gender representations, we focused qualitatively, in a sense, in the periphery zones, right? To look at the presence and the lack of presences in these labels to classify men and women. So 2 examples of that, looking at only the periphery zones and then accessing your image folder. It's, for example, the label chest, only used to classify women. Even knowing that the men data set, you have like pictures of men showing their chest, but no label to classify them. Same way with tie, a classic one, right? So tie only classifies men, although in the data set, we have women wearing a tie. And these sort of like insights and concrete findings, if you wish, were led by the visual insights of what we can look at in the network, right, in the periphery zones. What we can look at also, if you do not look at periphery zones, and maybe if you want to, let's say that the visual inquiry lead or inform qualitative readings, or let's say visual semiotic approaches, you can also use, for instance, the periphery zones, looking at what is close to each collection. For instance, beauty more close to women and cool more close to men, and have a look on, let's say, do a more qualitative approach on those, which I'm not doing because it's not my expertise. But I'm showing how one could proceed and looking at the presence and absence of these in the context of this project. And so, to conclude, in this sense of like specific zones, you can see here 3 different networks using the same data sets. That's this study in particular, and how the shape and also the size of the nodes change. Google has like a more homogeneous like classification, and Microsoft and Clarify most of the top dominant top prediction labels towards classifying men images. And that's just for, I just wanted to go, I'm not like describing all of them, but just showing you like in a close reading, like the different zones of the networks and the labels for Google. This one, it's for Microsoft. Basically don't have a center. And this one is for Clarify. Well, these are some references based on some of the case studies. If you're interested on them, you can look at these, either of these 2 papers or this presentation about the network vision methodology. Today, I presented what image networks are, when we could use them, how to read them, right? How to get advantage of this visual inquiry and what they offer. And I hope it's somehow useful, and I'm looking forward for your questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Janna, for your wonderful presentation. Quite inspiring, and I'm very curious about the questions from the audience. So I'd like to start with the audience here. Is there anyone who wants to make a question for starting? Then we go to online question as well. Okay, so yes, please say your name and okay.
Pode ser. Não, mas à vontade é português. Is that okay? Yeah? Ok. Eu sou... Primeiro, obrigado pela apresentação, muito interessante. Eu sou doutorando aqui da ECA. Estou nos últimos 6 meses de escrita de tese, então, naquela fase complicada. E a minha pergunta, eu achei muito interessante, assim, e não é muito meu campo de estudos, mas eu acompanho à distância e eu nunca tinha visto uma abordagem que fizesse esses recortes olhando para a periferia das redes, para esse mid-zone ali e para o centro. A minha dúvida é como que você constrói essas fronteiras? Quais critérios você usa para definir o que é periferia, o que é esse mid-zone e o centro? Obrigado.
Thank you for your question. That's a very good question. I forgot to say at the beginning that for me this presentation is kind of a starting point to consolidate this visual inquiry. So the definitions of what is center, midterm, and periphery, it's sometimes hard. Yeah, it depends on the shape of the network. But this, we tried to write about this back in 2019 with a colleague of mine, Inês Amaral, from the University of Coimbra, which was like the starting point. What happens, I've been working with networks for a couple of years now, not only image networks, and I would say that I come across this need of looking at this structure, because I'm not inventing that, right? This is like the structure, or like there are other authors that discuss how networks are structured like in this way, like different levels. A colleague like Matthew Yacomi with Gitala, they talk about like the internet as these layers, right? And then through practice, I came across this analytical gesture that I understand that can be reproducible no matter the type of network that you are dealing with. However, about the defining when it starts and when it finishes, I right now don't have a response to you. And maybe it's something that I have to think, maybe to bring out like some clear...
Calculate centrality.
or you can, yeah.
Calculate what's the most central and the least central.
Or you can calculate centrality. It's an approach.
I will ask in português. Eu sou Leonardo, sou professor aqui da ECA na área de tecnologias da comunicação no CCA. Eu queria te perguntar um pouco sobre as fontes, se tu se interessou ou chegou a pesquisar sobre as fontes das imagens desses sistemas que vocês analisaram, desses 9 sistemas de IA. Se isso é um ponto de interesse, se há vontade ou se há possibilidade de conseguir investigar as fontes para a criação das imagens, porque tem algumas bases de dados que são públicas, que a gente sabe que alimentam sistemas de IA, mas não dá para saber exatamente tudo. Então, eu até queria perguntar se você já pesquisou sobre isso um pouco dentro do teu trabalho. Obrigado por estar aqui. Eu já li o teu livro, também já usei em sala de aula. É uma referência.
Oh, wow. Thank you. Yes, Richard. He's asking about the sources of the images. because there are like different repositories and a way of accessing sources of the images. I would say that my research is pretty much based on this digital methods tradition in working with available images, right? So I work with social media, blogosphere, meme repository, AI-generated images. So I haven't done search engines outputs. I don't recall working with like different sources, and because these sources, in a sense, we have a minimal understanding of the environment, so I haven't further like asked question about these sources, if it makes sense to you. Yeah, but we can exchange ideas afterwards. Yeah, thank you.
Também vou perguntar em português.
Ok.
Boa tarde, pessoal. Boa tarde, Janna. Muito prazer, eu sou Marcelo. A gente já teve alguns contatos, acho que por e-mail. Muito prazer em te conhecer. A minha dúvida vai em relação à mudança de comportamento que a geração Z tem causado dentro da própria produção, remixagem, uso das imagens, né, hoje no ambiente digital. Até pela migração de mídias, a maior utilização do audiovisual, a falta de literacia para usar a inteligência artificial, enfim. O quanto você acha que hoje essa transformação e tanto o impulsionamento vindo da geração Z e das novas gerações tem mudado a perspectiva das imagens no ambiente digital, do ponto de vista de métodos digitais e tudo mais? Eu sei que ainda é muito confuso e uma pergunta muito abrangente, mas esse funil tem sido quebrado, né, por conta das mudanças comportamentais que a geração Z traz. Então, eu queria ouvir a sua percepção sobre isso. Muito obrigado.
Thank you. That's a tough question about... Well, I'm not sure if I have an answer to that. A question about the transformations that Gen Z generation is bringing to the table because they are different ways of dealing with, using, and appropriating images, and how this would somehow have an impact in methods or thinking. That's a tough question for me. I will have to think about and get back to you later, because I work in basis of collaborative environment and interdisciplinary expertise, right? So I think I haven't thought through this yet, and I'm going to save this spot for another question and think about. But Richard, please.
Yeah. I just want to jump in because so I mean, you could easily study algo speak. Who asked that question? Okay, yeah. So I mean, you could take Gen Z keywords and/or hashtags and plot, a particular sort of Gen Z cultural space, right? Using exactly the same techniques as Janna just pointed out.
Thank you, Richard. Of course.
Tudo bom, prazer. Obrigado, primeiramente, pela apresentação. Eu sou o João, sou um visitante, tenho interesse no tema e comecei a conversar com o professor há algum tempo. Pelo que eu entendi, esses algoritmos que moldam a rede, na verdade, a minha pergunta é se a posição das imagens dentro da rede elas têm algum significado semântico. Porque quando a gente trabalha com texto, com palavras, por exemplo, a gente pode converter numa representação vetorial e essas palavras com significado próximo, elas vão estar e elas vão dar forma àquela rede ali. Pelo que eu entendi, esses algoritmos eles já têm uma pré-moldagem da rede, assim. Então eu queria entender se existem estudos nessa linha de embedar uma imagem, assim como tu embeda um texto, e deixar com que aquela rede ganhe uma forma própria, assim, de acordo com a semântica da imagem mesmo.
There are two things. It's about the network visualization and whether there is like a semantic organization of these images, or if we can find these as in text visualizations and semantic analysis with text visualization in a sense, right? Yes, I mean, two things, right? So you have these algorithms, they depend on your data, right? So they have a logic that they work on. So the one that I shared, it's the one that we kind of recommend if you wish, or it's a very good one to make sense, to explore networks and visualize and analyze networks visually, because the way they function. Well, you don't need to know math, but what you need to understand is that first, the agency of how the network is spatialized comes from your data. Then, before that, who decided to create the image data set, and who create the network? You. So that's like, so then if I use a network of hashtag and images, right, and if I know where they come from, so the semantic meaning of those connections are associated to the way they are spatialized in a sense, but also with the environment they come from, right? And how I collected my data. And I guess the second part of my talk, presenting those components that we need to account when we read a network visualization. It's like my effort towards the semantic meanings of the network that are heavily informed by some technical mediations that goes along with, let's say, the social phenomenon that you are studying, right? Did I reply to you? Yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to make questions? Or shall we finish by now? One next.
Só mais uma, porque eu fiquei muito realmente interessado nesse elemento da sua fala sobre as periferias da rede, e eu acho que eu vejo um valor muito grande aí que eu ainda não consegui expressar o porquê, a razão. E aí eu queria que você falasse um pouquinho sobre porquê, qual que é o valor que a gente tem da análise dessas periferias, e se fosse possível, você mencionou num dado momento que durante testes os labels atrelavam, por exemplo, gravata só homens. Isso para mim não ficou tão, eu não entendi totalmente. Se você pudesse aprofundar um pouco essa relação, acho que seria valioso para mim. Obrigado.
Okay, the meaning of looking at the periphery zones of the network, and one part of the case study about the cross-vision API approach to, you have like the labels like a tie identifying this and not identifying that. He wanted me to further develop on that. The periphery zones of the network, of the networks for me are the most interesting bit, because precisely it would tell you specific, and particular perspectives and frames about your data set. That is not, let's say, that's not the majority, that's not like popular, that is not, but it is part of your data set and provides you a very particular frame. So, for example, in the network of the gender case, the characterizations of what's the other one? This black woman. And then you see that in that network, some periphery areas, first, is going to tell you specific things about AI-generated images that are not found across the other 8 models. There is something very characteristic only of one model. Well, in this network was just one model. But in other networks, you can find, for instance, if it is the case of cross-platform, you can find connections, very specific connections or associations with images coming from only 2 environments, or about 2 hashtags, or about the specific text that you do not find in the center because it's not that popular, but it is still relevant because it's specific. So it's kind of you run away from what is popular. And maybe because of the time of the break, we can discuss the second question in the break time? Yeah?
Okay, as mentioned, we need to have a break now. If anyone has anything to question or talk, we have time for this. Now it's like a very short break, like 5 minutes for toilet and water. 10 minutes. Okay, 10 minutes. And then you guys get back to this room because we're gonna start the second session with Richard Rogers. So thanks again very much for your presence. I'm gonna have like 5-ish, 10 minutes of break, okay? For you. Oi, querida. Você tá bom?
Vamos tirar uma foto que você me manda no Instagram. Como é que você tá? Ah, tudo bem, graças a Deus. Tô aqui, olha que prazer, rapaz. Que privilégio. Falar na você sabe que parabéns, né? Ela tá falando em Lisboa, a gente conheceu em Lisboa. A Cris disse lá no meio. Ah, tá, eu já fiz um de uma lista de pedidos e faz 3 meses. E agora tem que sequestrar. Só que eu tenho que ficar pra ficar com você tem que não, é um pouco diferente. Eu passei lá no banheiro, passei lá, mas aí eu passei aí eu passei assim, são muitos,
Yeah. Perfect. Yeah.
Tem um pessoal que ela faz, tem um pessoal lá da
Imagem eu nunca fiz, mas assim, sempre tive que analisar coisas. Eu estava comentando para ela, eu faço muito tempo que eu não sabia que eu analisava em qualquer. Mas ela falou que vocês na mão, sabe? Eu não faço mais. Tem outra forma de fazer, né? Tem outros softwares.
O Gap eu acho que a aplicação dele
eu entendi isso muito agora.
é isso. Ele é.
Foi criado meio com isso, né?
Só que antigamente ele extraía o dataset do Facebook, do Twitter e tal, e aí tinha um diálogo, agora fecharam. Aí agora a gente tem que traçar o dataset de uma forma específica para achar o novo.
Você tem que extrair manualmente e jogar no...
Manualmente eu acho que não, você pode colocar.
Não, manualmente não, mas qual forma de extrair
Automaticamente.
E tem que ver em qual lugar que vai. Rede social. Tem vários intermediários. Intermediários que é meio caro. E a universidade consegue mandar.
Olha a nossa...
Hi everyone, let's back to the room. Pessoal retornando, por favor. So let's back to your seats, please. All right. So now we move to our keynote lecture, delivered by Professor Richard Rogers, Director of the Digital Methods Initiative at the University of Amsterdam. His presentation is titled Machine Critique, Algorithm Auditing. So let's give some applause to him. He's Professor of New Media and Digital Culture, Media Studies, University of Amsterdam, and Director of the Digital Methods Initiative, Humanities Labs. He's author of Information Politics on the Web, Digital Methods, both MIT Press, as well as Doing Digital Methods by Sage. He's editor with Sabine Neider of The Politics of Social Media Manipulation, The Propagation of Misinformation in Social Media, a Cross-Platform Analysis, and the forthcoming Content Moderation Across Social Media Platforms, all from Amsterdam University Press. So Professor Rogers, thank you so much for being here with us in São Paulo for the first time, right? It's a pleasure for us. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. Thanks, everyone, for coming. Thank you, Janna, for an inspiring talk. So what I'm going to talk about is a particular form of critique. It's a way of thinking about how to critique search engines, how to critique social media platforms, how to critique social media feeds, and it's called algorithmic auditing. And I just wanted to put up one of the books, and we're going to celebrate its translation into Portuguese. This is it. There is a chapter in this book on this subject, algorithmic auditing. So I just wanted to highlight that. So what I'm going to first do is define it for you. So the audit, of course, you know what an audit is from accounting. It's not what you want to get, right? So it's when the tax office looks into your books very, very carefully and normally finds issues with them. But an audit in the social sciences and the humanities, but mainly the social sciences, is slightly different. It is a means to detect discrimination. So in the 1950s and since then, what people have done is they've taken a housing application or a bank loan application, and they've changed the name of the person just slightly to indicate a different ethnicity. And they have submitted these, so this is covert research. So they submitted these applications to banks or for housing, and then they want to see what happens. They want to see whether or not a particular name with a certain ethnicity, an Asian name, for example, or an African American name, a lot of this work was done in the US, is rejected, and then the white person is accepted, right? So this is the sort of scenario. So this is the classic social scientific audit. However, algorithmic auditing is discrimination by software, right? So it's discrimination built into the algorithm. Yeah? So this is the point of departure. However, I take it far more broadly than specific discrimination, although I will show you examples of that study as well. But algorithmic auditing is generally the study of privileging. What gets privileged? What gets moved to the top, and what gets moved down below, right? So any kind of hierarchicalization that software outputs that you can critique is algorithmic auditing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a history of it, briefly, hopefully, of algorithmic auditing or the study of privileging mechanisms, basically from the birth of the web. I mean, I have it here from 1998, the birth of the web, you could put it 1993, 1994 with the first browsers. But I'm going to start in 1998, and then go to the present. And just on the outset, while I'm periodizing, right? But this is periodization, of course, is a bit of a game. So you know, I'm saying the way I'm playing the game is I haven't ended any of the periods. I've only started them. Right? So this is transhistorical. So the first one and the second one and the third one, they continue to this day. But these are the ones that have cropped up at the particular years. And what I'm giving you here is not a history of the phenomenon, but a history of not a history of the phenomenon of discrimination by software or privileging by software, but its study, right? So this is a research periodization, right? So not the thing, but its study. So let me just go through them for you, hopefully briefly. So I want to start off with the most basic form of privileging online, especially. A lot of these are search engines, but then we'll get to social media, then we'll get to AI platforms. So this is more or less the history of the web in some ways. So from the web to social media to AI. So I want to start off with the most basic one, and this goes back some years, and I don't know if anyone in this room has heard of Alta Vista. I'm sure people have. Everyone's like, Alta Vista. Alta Vista was the most popular search engine before Google, for those who remember. And what happened with Alta Vista is it decided to privilege the paid advertisement over the organic advertisement. Or, in fact, I mean, its story is actually far more complex than that, or far more nuanced in the sense that they announced that they might do that. They never actually got around to actually doing it, but basically they did not make a distinction, or they said that they might not make a distinction between paid search engine results and organic search engine results, right? That they would make no distinction. Now, they crossed the line, the classic journalistic line between the editorial and the advertisement, right? The editorial and the commercial, right? So they tried to blur that, and in some ways they lost that. That's paid, and that was called paid placement. We actually wrote a book on this. We called it Preferred Placement. It came out in the 90s sometime. But this is a more recent example. And this is the second example that I'll give you. It's called self-privileging. So this is the second type of privileging, self-privileging. And Google is very well known for it. This is, in fact, one of my favorite data journalism pieces. It came out in, I think it was 2020. And the title of you can see it, the title of the journalistic piece is Google's Top Search Results? Surprise, it's Google. And so what does that mean? Well, basically, Google populates the top of its search engine returns with its own properties, right? So this is self-privileging. Let me just quickly, I mean, I don't know, for those of you who have nostalgia for the web that was, or the search engine results that were. So this is the same query. This is the query for Linux in 2000 and then in 2020, just to illustrate the difference, whereby you have, now look at Google learned from the Alta Vista scandal to highlight the advertisement at the top, making the distinction, right? So this is a direct outcome of the Alta Vista scandal. And then organic results. We go to 2020, and what do we get? We get Google products, basically. So Google, whatever it is, Google Ads, Google Places, Google, et cetera, all at the top. Google Images, right? You get Google self-privileging. I want to show you sort of why. Why is this? I don't know if people know what this is. It's a very famous image it's called the Golden Triangle of Search. It was a marketing company, a Canadian marketing company actually did this. Eye tracking. So when you look at search engine results, how do you look at search engine results? Well, your eyes go upper left, right? Your eyes go upper left. Therefore, upper left is the most valuable sort of web real estate, so to speak. Now, this study was updated. This is the first of its kind, and it's been updated since then, but this is the first of its kind where this upper left has shifted somewhat. Do you know why? Why? You know. Say it out loud.
The ads.
What? The ads. No. Wait, hang on. There are two different devices going on here. This is desktop. This is mobile. This is the phone, right? So you're scrolling. So you see upper left is so important. However, right, you see that the importance has also moves downward. So then you get this study. Let me see if you can, maybe this is better. This is one image, but where's the, here's the punchline. You have to scroll down with mobile phone search engine results. You have to scroll down 36%. This is the study. 36% before you find an organic result, right? So this is self-privileging at its best. Okay, the last one from the early period that still goes on are optimized placements. This is a bit more complicated story, but basically, you know that websites optimize for search engines. Websites are authored not for readers, but for crawlers, for search engine crawlers. And now, well, they're not authored for AI scraping, but they sort of are, or they're beginning to become authored for AI scraping. We can talk about that later. But anyway, this picture is about which websites are well optimized and which are less well optimized, and what happens to less well optimized sites. Well, basically, they don't get as many eyeballs. If you optimize your website, it's greater. So what we did is a couple of studies looking at problematic cases, hate groups. So what if hate groups optimize their websites? And what if watchdogs of hate groups don't optimize their websites? Do you get hate at the top and watchdogs down below? Or what is it empirically? So we found that hate sites are rather, well, we found a few things which I'll mention briefly. Skinheads don't optimize. It's sort of a joke. But those who are more politically attuned, so hate groups we're talking about, huh? So anti-LGBTQ or anti-immigration, like these politicized topics, they're very well optimized websites. And the watchdogs are better than the skinheads, but they're not as good as the highly optimized anti-immigration, So this is what we found. This is published last year, or 2 years ago, no, last year, about, the other one that I want to mention, which is this paper is more about, is a second case, and that is fake news. So there were, the case study in this article was Zelensky's villa. So apparently, according to Russian propaganda, Vladimir Zelensky, president of Ukraine, has an expensive Italian villa. So this is a sort of propagandistic story. How well do those stories do compared to fact checks? And how well do they do if they're highly optimized versus fact checks that may or may not be optimized? So this is what this work is about. The answer is that the fake news does better than the fact checks, which is sad. Okay. The next one, I want to talk about largely this notion of Googlearchy. So the question of what does Google, leading search engine, what does it privilege in general? And what kind of sources are sort of left behind? So this is a well-known critique. It was by a scholar called Matthew Hindman, and he argued that that Google actually privileges sort of like the establishment or those websites that get many, many links, and doesn't privilege those websites that get fewer links, even though those websites may be valuable. It's a very well-known critique, but he put that forward. So what we did, this is a project for the MacArthur Foundation. It's a sort of major funder, donor in the US. And they asked us to look into whether or not experts in a subject area are high up in the returns for a query about that subject. And this particular subject area, doesn't matter what it's called participatory learning. This is the name of it. And then they gave us a list of the leading organizations in that area. And so we've reverse engineered Google to show us over time whether or not the sources that are considered experts actually made it to the top of the search engine results. No. So all of these experts were not in the top 100 results, and some of them sometimes appeared. There was only one that was towards the top and then got dropped. Right? So it's the idea that Google produces a hierarchy that does not necessarily match expertise. And here's an article that we wrote. Well, I'll just mention this one briefly as well. This is about other kinds of hierarchies in search engines. This is about auto-completion. So when you type in something in any search engine, when you begin typing, it finishes your words, right? And then you see. So what we did is this is the first study of discrimination by software. So we did a comparison between Google, Yahoo, and DuckDuckGo. And we created stereotype soliciting autocompletions. So we said something like, why are older men so? And then we allowed the engine to complete it. And we did that for 160 social groups and some intersectionals. So why are black older men so? Some, not the complete set. And we found, so what you see here is some religions and some political ones. What we found, so you see the completions here. So Christians for Google, judgmental, Mormons, nice, Protestants, why are they so bitter, boring, right? Okay, so these sorts of things. So Google, we found, is quite sensitive, right? So they correct a lot. Yahoo is offensive, basically. Everything goes. So extremely racist, extremely stereotypical, etc. Now it's interesting because this kind of work is very, it can be easily politicized, huh? Right? because then you say, okay, Google is the woke engine, and Yahoo is the anti-woke engine, right? So these sorts of things immediately become politicized, and I'll come back to this in a bit. Anyway, this came out not so long ago. My co-author, Alina Leidinger from the University of Amsterdam. Okay, I want to move to the next one. Yeah, all right. So volatility. So volatility is something that's really underappreciated, actually. When you search for something one day, do you get the same thing the next day? Just think if you're looking for a piece of information, and then day after day, it might be different. What's considered the most significant. So some people study this. Some colleagues of mine have studied the last sort of 20 years of updates, official updates, right? And the most famous one, or infamous one, was just after the sort of fake news debacle, which we'll come to in a minute, when all of the platforms and engines instituted certain corrections. And so Google's algorithmic update of, I think this was 2018, after the fake news crisis, they demoted all sorts of alternative science, alternative medicines, alternative things like this. This goes back to, I'm going to take you back, this goes back a long way. This is, in fact, an art project of mine, number of years ago. You can tell by the name of the project. It's called Issue Dramaturg. So this project tried to put on display the drama of search engine returns, right? So that one day you're at the top and the next day you're gone. And there's a drama to it. This is a comparison of three websites. One is a conspiracy website, which was at the top for a particular query. The query is 9/11. So a conspiracy website was at the top for many days, dropped down to off below the 1,000th result, and then a week and a half later went back to the top. So this is the study of volatility. This is a colleague of mine, Bernard Rieder, from the University of Amsterdam. He studies what he calls agitated algorithms, or agitating algorithms. This is an output, it's called a rank flow visualization, which shows, not so unlike this, which is sort of simpler. This shows search engine results of multiple videos in YouTube, what their results are over time. And this is for the Syrian war query. And what they found in YouTube was that the results were pretty stable until there was a major external event in the war, which caused a massive perturbation in the engine results, which you would never think, right? That algorithms are agitated by externalities. Okay, I want to talk a little bit. I want to move to things that are a little bit closer, I think, to what we experience as users. Profiling. So you get results on the basis of a number of constructs, right? These constructs have been called different things over the years. The early term was data double. Subsequently, it was called data body, right? This is the construct of you, the user, created by the platform that influence the algorithm to output particular results, right? And so a lot of people try to study personalization in a variety of ways, or forms of it, profiling in a variety of ways. This is a particular project. It's another art project. It's not mine. It's Sam Levigny's, which is about how platforms profile you. So this is just this is the most basic, right? So you have expressed interest in government. You have interested in Eastern Europe. You're current owners of crossover vehicles, right? So this is what gets known about you, your preferences, and then on the basis of these quite simple things, there's a sort of a brokerage system or a bidding system where ads are then bought and then sent to you through these profiles. These profiles are on the basis, as I said, of personalization. Now, personalization is something that was sort of kind of discovered by a sort of journalist, academic, Eli Pariser. You've probably heard of him. He was the guy who invented the notion of the filter bubble, right? So this is his original graphic, his original output to explain what the filter bubble is. So this is from his his famous TED Talk in 2011, I think it was, where he shows that he has two friends. Well, he has probably more than two friends, but he has two friends, and they both searched for Egypt. And one friend gets protests in Egyptian Revolution of 2011, sort of this kind of Arab Spring-ish. Another one gets travel info, right? Very, very different. And so what he argues is that what is being created is a bubble per user on the basis of filtering on the basis of your preferences, right? Filter bubble. When I first heard that term, I thought this is an oxymoron. It's a very strange idea, but it makes sense. So his critique was that this is invisible editing, and that we hear this time and time again now with the idea of shadow banning, invisible editing, the invisible editing of the web. And then it results in certain things. So the idea is that, and this is basically the critique, the privileging critique of all feeds across social media, and now it's coming to AI platforms, is that the privileging is on the basis of homophily. So like likes like. Yeah? Birds of a feather flock together. So you're getting the similar, right? Similar things to what you expressed your interests in, right? So it's different from, you could, from heterophily, getting difference, or serendipity, or discoverability, right? So most algorithms are based, and you'll find this, are based on personalization. Now, here's an example. This is from Facebook. This is a data journalism piece. It's very interesting. It was from the 2016 elections. It ran from 2016 to 2021, I think, or 2020. It was run in the Wall Street Journal. What they did is they emulated conservative feed and a progressive feed, emulated them on the basis of a set of conservative sources, a set of progressive sources on Facebook, taking the posts from them and showing the differences, right? Now, more recently, this was in 2021, the emulation switched to actual users. So they asked 1,000 conservatives and 1,000 progressives in the US to actually supply their feeds through data donation, browser plugins, right? So you get the actual posts. It's not emulation, it's real. And so then you see the distinct difference, right? So you see, this sort of, we know, or we think we know, that these, the Bolsonaro fans will get certain posts and non-Bolsonaro will get other posts, right? We sort of know that, but this demonstrates it. It's an actual empirical. So it demonstrates homophily at work, or personalization based on homophily in action. So this is privileging based on homophily. Okay, I want to now get to discrimination proper. So I don't know if you've heard of this case. It's the most famous one. It sort of started, it really started algorithmic auditing as an area. So this was in 2014, I think, and then the first algorithmic auditing papers came out in 2015, 2016. And it's this Harvard professor called Sweeney. She was searching for her colleagues on Google with African-American names. And when she searched for them, she would get these ads, criminal background checks. And then when she started searching for her white colleagues, these ads disappeared. She wrote a sort of, I think, 35, 40-page article sort of detailing this discrimination. Now, this was, I mean, then Sophia Noble's book came out, which is the more well-known work called Algorithms of Oppression. So this is from 2018, where sort of she systematically goes through the sort of history of Google. Well, it starts with Google search engine results. It's a Google critique, but it could be applied to other engines and other systems. But I mean, she goes through sort of the history of like all the different products and shows how they're discriminatory. More recently, we're getting the question of the extent to which we have discrimination built in to AI platforms, and why, and what to do about it, right? So we're getting into the sort of the cancel culture, woke debates here as well, right? So should AI platforms remove the discrimination? What should be removed? How to address the question of offensiveness? How to address the question of stereotypes that are in the training sets, which come from the open web and elsewhere, and they get built into AI? How do we address these? What do we do? The term for that is value alignment. I'm going to come back to that towards the end, but these are the debates. Now, these debates are relatively new. They go back some years. So Google always defended its organic results, even if they were discriminatory. They defended them. They say, well, this is the web. This is reality. It's funny, the web is reality. This is the web, the reality of the web, maybe I should say. They made one commentary. I don't know if you know about this. So going all the way back to 2004, but it stayed up there for quite a long time. If you searched for Jew in Google, you would get an anti-Semitic website in the top 3 results, sometimes at the top. And what Google did is it put its own banner ad and inserted at the top. It said, offensive search results. We don't like these results either, but we're leaving them there because they reflect the reality of, right? So this went on. 2000, I mean, this notice went up in 2004. This went on until 2016, when a Guardian journalist noticed in Google autocomplete, she said, I don't know exactly what I was doing, but she typed in "are Jews," and then it was completed with "evil" as an autocompletion. And she was like, what is this? Where does this come from? How is this possible? And then she wrote a couple of journalistic pieces. And what happened? The patch. This is where it started. So if you were to type, I mean, I don't know if people have their machines open now, but if you type "are Jews," I haven't done it in a few weeks, but it gives you nothing. Like, there's no autocompletion, and then it's same for, right? And so you can ask yourself, what deserves patching? just Jews? Or, right? So this really there's a lot of patching going on, and when one looks at what gets patched and what doesn't get patched, this is an interesting type of way of studying privileging, right? So this is a very infamous case study from. So I'll just tell you about this study. It's we published it in the journal Big Data and Society a couple of years ago, where we looked at all of the beginning with Caldewire's discovery and publication in 2016, but there were so many of these that this opened the floodgates. This one, right? And so then people started, journalists basically, and then also scholars started sort of making queries, whether in Google Images or Google Autocomplete, and then looking at them critically. So this was one of them, professional hair, right? All white women. So this is 2016. If you looked at, if the journalist Alexander, I think this was also The Guardian, it may not have been, but I didn't put it up here, but unprofessional hair was all black women, basically. Right? Okay, so what we did is we took all of we took 40 of them from 2016, 2017, 2018, lots and lots of these cases. Huge scandals in the press, right? And then we looked at them, 10 years later. What had happened to all these sort of controversial results? You see, for professional hair, you see some diversification, right? So you see something of a patch. Professor, I'm a professor. I'm a male professor. This was 2015, the discovery. 2022, yeah, mostly unchanged. So you begin to see the sort of what we called hierarchies of concern. What deserves the patch according to Google or any company, and what doesn't? Yeah, so this is the piece. Okay, I want to. This will interest you. In Brazil, it's a colleague of mine, Natalia Sanchez. She did this in Spanish, yeah, not Portuguese, unfortunately. But anyway, she took the query Amazonia and queried in Google regions, right? So all of the various so as if you're in Spain, or if you're in, I don't know, Bolivia, Uruguay, Chile, etc., right? All of these different countries. And what kind of results do you get? Well, what she found is in Spain, you get only results, or mainly only results from Spain, Spanish sources. In Latin America, the top results are also from Spain. These are we call this sort of neo-colonial privileging, and then what? Oddly enough, and this is another depiction. You have to look at these very closely to understand them. But oddly enough, the source set that you get across all Latin American countries was the same, with Spanish results from Spain at the top, and then no differentiation per country. Same results in Bolivia, same results in Uruguay, same results in Chile, same results in Suriname, or not Suriname, but etc. Okay, now we're getting closer and closer to the present day. Politically biased results in fake news. It's interesting. There's been this right-wing critique of Google recently about that results in Google are sort of, the top results are left of center. Now, I can tell you from information theory or information studies, search engines have never, ever, ever thought of outputting politically balanced results. It's never even occurred to them as an option. Right? You're trying to match query with document, best match, and then it's how do we do the matching? That's the question. It's never about the politics. So some colleagues of mine and I, we wanted to test the politics of search results, the political leanings of them, with a simple experiment. We took a right-wing word, a left-wing word, and a neutral word for the same thing, guns. So this is in this sort of American context. So it was gun control, sort of a left-wing term, firearms, sort of neutral, and in the American context, Second Amendment, which is the right to bear arms, the right to have guns. Right? We queried each of these and looked at the results. And then we took the domains, the sources, and then we fed them into political leaning labeling websites. They exist. And we found out that the top 3 results were sort of neutral, Wikipedia and things like this, and then the next 30 results were left of center. And then the first conservative result was result number 35. What do you do with this as a scholar? Do you publish this? I mean, it's something that is easily used by sort of quite extreme voices. The second one I want to talk about is fake news, the birth of fake news. This is it. This was the finding by Craig Silverman, the data journalist of BuzzFeed News, published in, I think it was October or November of 2016. And this is the method. So what he did was he took a bunch of political keywords, searched for them in Facebook, took the top mainstream sites and the top problematic sources, and then counted the engagement, likes, shares, comments. And what he found was that in the run-up to the 2016 elections, that problematic information or fake news outperformed mainstream news on Facebook. Right? So Facebook is privileging fake news. Now, Craig Silverman, I happen to know this guy. He's not happy that he called it fake news. And in the article, he called it false news. I mean, he didn't actually, but fake news, it really stuck. And we know what's happened since then, right? But let me just show you what's interesting about what Silverman did, his method. Because a lot of people haven't looked into this really exactly. So this is his definition of fake news. So it's disinformation, conspiracy. These are fake news sites or front groups, fake NGOs. But he also included hyper-partisan sources, which was defined in the same year by a New York Times journalist as openly ideological web operations. So these are like InfoWars or Zero Hedge or Daily Caller, or these sort of like quite, well, basically hard right, quite extreme, I'm not using the word extremist, extreme voices. And on the basis of that, he found this. Now, what happened afterwards, 2017, 2018, is Facebook arrived, of course, responding, and started doing their own measurements. And what they did to measure the same phenomenon is they used this definition. If you remove the hyperpartisan, then this stays here. Right? So the definition matters. This is a piece I wrote about that. The size of the problem depends about how you define this notion of fake news. Okay, getting towards the end. Now, the privileging mechanisms of online platforms are now frequently studied from the perspective of content moderation. I think a lot of our attention in media studies, internet studies, has shifted to how are platforms sort of moderating content. I've shown you many examples of offensive content, fake news. Are they demoting them? Are they removing them? Are they deplatforming them, etc.? And this is not so easy to study. And I want to show you one way to study it. And this is a fascinating piece of work by some of my colleagues on YouTube. Now, this is a form of what I call agile archiving. You are looking at a set of problematic sources on a daily basis or monthly or weekly and waiting for them to be removed. And this is exactly what happened. That's one day and this is the next day. And a lot of them are gone. When things are gone, it's very difficult. It's almost impossible to know about their existence previously unless you have done work to sort of archive them or whatever. So this particular piece of work is a technique that my colleagues have called platform perspectivism. You use one platform to study another one. So they took 4chan, which is this alternative sort of image board, and they took a neo-Nazi board, and they looked up all the YouTube links on it, and they were loading these YouTube links until one day, bang, they were removed. I mean, there's a couple of interesting things about this. You ask yourself the question of why are these other ones left, right? Why aren't they all gone? But also, they found that there tends to be overfishing, over-removal, etc. Okay. I want to now move to the last one, and that's, I'm calling it editorial epistemologies. And the question is nowadays, how do we edit our platforms? And why? And so I want to sort of start again by going back to this. So this is this idea of we're putting up a notice, but we're leaving the results, right? So in some sense, this is a sort of interesting approach that has not been repeated, basically since then. But what I'm also saying is that this is a form of curation, right, or editing, or annotating, right? So you're putting a note up there. Now during COVID, if you remember, if you searched for vaccine or COVID-19, it was purely curated, right? So I published a piece. I don't think I have it here. I called it serious queries. So which queries are serious enough that there's editing or that there's curation, right? So with COVID, we got it. Now we're beginning to get it in auto-completion as well. So I've shown you examples previously of the patch. This is something that's moving beyond the patch nowadays. So this is a climate change is query from 2018. So you see, is not real, is a hoax, is fake. 4 years later, is irreversible, is it too late, is a natural phenomenon, is caused by humans, right? So you have a variety of answers versus a sort of full of climate skeptics, right? So there's some form of editorial intervention happening. I don't mean necessarily hard-coded, but it's being thought about as a problem, right? And so this is another example. This is about the current political situation where in 2021, if you queried civil war is, you would get these sort of now, next, right? So this ferment, this is after January 6th in the US, right? And of course we had an incident, similar one here, right? And then you see that there's effort now to change these results. And how are they doing it? Well, you see here, there's traces of the importation of, I don't know if this may be a technical term, but it's called the Google Knowledge Graph. You know when you search, you get this panel on the right-hand side. I mean, now we're getting these AI summaries, right? But you still get these sort of info panels on the right-hand side. Right? So they're importing this sort of hard knowledge into the autocompletions. It gets weird. They're still. I mean, this is again the study that we were doing, where we're beginning to get sort of synthetically generated, sort of AI generated, sort of auto-completions, which are not very well worked out. But there's also, so this is what I want to show you. This is about value alignment. So this is about this is AI platforms, but which of them are really concerned about editing and which ones are not, or not yet. So Llama, and by the way, this is also a geopolitical exercise. So we compared American, European, Chinese, and well, Middle Eastern, UAE. Auto-completion trick are stereotype soliciting prompts now. We use them as queries before, but now we're using them as prompts. So why are older men so, etc. And I don't know if I have an example. No, I don't. Oh, well, no, I don't have it. But yeah, I wanted to show you one of them, which completes things in extremely offensive ways, and then says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying that." It's as if this is kind of slightly schizophrenic. That's Falcon. But anyway, these are refusal rates. So refusing to answer, right? And you see Llama, the American one, is super sensitive, oversensitive, so to speak. And then the European one, sort of medium sensitivity, the Chinese one, less, and the UAE one, like sort of 0. So you see that there's very, very different levels of sensitivity built into them, or very, very different levels of sort of editorial epistemologies built in. Okay, and this is the piece on that research. All right, so that's so what I tried to do is give you this sort of broad way of studying privileging mechanisms, which is this sort of general way of seeing sort of discrimination by software, going through the different ways of thinking about it, right? And then I operationalized it, each of them as well. But these are, I mean, I suppose there are more, but these are the sort of classic ones where you actually, look at different sorts of ways in to privilege. I mean, the number one here, like looking for self-privileging, these sorts of things. I mean, it's still going on, right? The European Commission recently fined Google 6 billion euros for self-privileging of its shopping platform, right? So it's not as if that this one has gone away or other ones as well. All of them are still relevant, but of course now everyone's studying value alignment, right, and content moderation, but the other ones remain relevant as well. Okay, that's it. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Richard, for this brilliant presentation. I'll open now for questions from the audience. I'd like to know who would like to start. And I want to know if people online also want to...
Oh, yeah, and please pose your question in Portuguese. It's fine.
Yeah, of course.
We'll deal with it somehow. Alan will translate, maybe.
Okay. Yes?
Hello. Hi, Professor Rogers. Tudo bem. Pode ser em inglês? Pode ser? Já fiz. Okay.
Oh, English.
As
Fabulous.
as researchers at Smart Media Users Group, and we study digital methods and are always curious to explore new research possibilities. Which approach do you think researchers in Brazil could explore? Do you think further, and how could they contribute more to advancing the field of digital methods? What advice would you give for adopting a more critical stance toward platforms and algorithms?
Okay, thank you very much. I wish you were with us in Niterói a couple of days ago. We addressed a similar question, and I think there's a twofold answer. I think on the one hand, I think what's important is that one develops software and approaches for the Brazilian scene, right? And the second one is also to have a cosmopolitan outlook, right? So to sort of not remain fully insular, so to speak. So to develop things that are also sort of relevant to not only the contemporary situation in Brazil, but also and the contemporary debates, which I've sort of also presented to you, these sorts of things, right, at the same time. So how do you study, how do you study value alignment, but how do you also think about approaches that would sort of meet various critiques. So currently, as I said before, we're at a moment where you have this idea of the woke machine, right? And you saw these examples of it, right? So this one is super sensitive. So if you prompt it for, why are Germans so, or why are, I mean, it refuses to answer a lot of these sort of stereotype eliciting, whereas other ones, they answer, right? And so what do you do about this? How do you approach that? Is there right? So this is an international problem, right? So this is one thing, but there are also national problems, right? And so how do you? So I would say that you develop techniques, software approaches that strive to address both scenes. Yeah.
Bom, são duas perguntas. A primeira com relação... Eu sempre tive a percepção que, dentro das ferramentas de busca, pelo menos, que a gente tinha um resultado muito mais dependente, talvez, de cauda longa ou um resultado das pesquisas que haviam sido feitas antes, né? Diferente das redes sociais, onde você tem realmente essa percepção de bolha, né? Então, as informações que foram trazidas hoje, elas mudam bastante a minha percepção
com relação às ferramentas de busca. Então, primeiro, se existe esse viés, se existe essa questão dessa construção coletiva, né, a partir do momento que uma pessoa, um grupo fez uma pesquisa, um assunto ele está mais em voga, isso pode influenciar, então muda um pouco a percepção com relação à informação que o professor trouxe. E a outra pergunta é com relação à inteligência artificial, né? Uma vez que hoje as ferramentas de busca elas já estão integrando a inteligência artificial e, por conta disso, as respostas elas muitas vezes já vêm prontas, né? Apesar de se citarem fontes, as perguntas elas estão já respondidas. Então, trazendo até, considerando o Google, respostas que fazem com que muitas vezes você deixe de fazer a busca, né, e de se aprofundar na busca, porque essa resposta ela já vem meio que pronta, né?
Okay, that was a very long question.
Thanks for the very long question and for my translation. Well, the point is that he mentioned that he had the experience of using search engines and the perception that it worked just like a long tail perspective or like a more collective action. So, for example, if I Google something and many people Google the same thing, there's like a collective movement influencing this result. No? Yeah. So he mentioned that your talk today was like very interesting because it changed the way he could see this movement. He also would like to ask. Yeah, the second part. Yeah, it's about LLMs now. Yeah, great. The point is that he wants to know your opinion about how LLMs now are influencing these search engines as they are getting more integrated to the system, because now they are like giving answers like ready answers, ready for you, so you don't like Google or do more searching, for example.
Yeah. Thank you.
And please do more short questions.
No, but just briefly, I think just on the first question, your second question is a bit of a longer answer, but your first question, I think that search engine results have evolved quite significantly over time, whereas they were initially based on the results which were the best linked results for a particular keyword. They're now the results that the most of us click on the basis of a keyword, right? So it's now more crowdsourced than a sort of Google archi than the high or the page rank algorithm was before. So you're absolutely right with that observation. But indeed, about your second question, it's interesting that what people are worried about is what's going to happen to the web now that people aren't clicking through to the websites. So this was a problem for Wikipedia. If you go back to 2018, 2019, the minute that Google started scraping Wikipedia and providing those little sort of small info boxes for so if you search for Leonardo da Vinci, you would get an info box with a picture and the date of birth, year of death, and then sort of short description, right? And so the minute that those panels were introduced, the number of click-throughs to Wikipedia went like this, right? And so so people were worried about, like the fact that, people wouldn't click. Now people are worried about it even more, right? So all of the various business models that are based on, business models that keep websites alive, that are based on, click-throughs and ads and the rest, people are concerned that AI is going to collapse the web. They're using this word collapse because of model collapse. It's going to collapse the web. So this is currently a real concern. Yeah.
Just adding a point to our comment, we did recently a paper making a comparison between some AI models, LLM models, but using an auditable source. So we had like a historical newspaper regarding like the dictatorship period here in Brazil, and we put into different LLMs to test how they interpret this historical test. So we could see the source and compare clearly. I think the problem now is when you Google this or use a different search engines, now you don't know where is the source. So this is a point that we have to consider. So how can we track this? No? So you want to ask?
Boa tarde, meu nome é Hélio. E eu vou aproveitar a pergunta da inteligência artificial e fazer uma outra, né, relacionada com a inteligência artificial. Então, o próprio Google começa a utilizar o seu mecanismo de inteligência artificial, que é o Gemini, ou Gemini, né? Então, quando a gente começa a fazer pesquisa atualmente com o Google, você acredita que, com a inteligência artificial, você acredita que algumas desses problemas, digamos, desses vieses que são apresentados, eles vão ser atenuados ou aumentados?
He's mentioned that Google is now using Gemini in many of his search tasks, and he was wondering if all those bias or aspects that you mentioned, do you think they're like raised or lowered in terms of using now LLMs in this process?
Well, do you remember the headline, what's the top Google result? Surprise, it's Google. What's the top Google result? Surprise, it's Gemini. I mean, it's right. So it's the same. So you see this sort of self-privileging. So they dominate the golden triangle, right, of search. They dominate also on the scroll. So you can say it just remediates, the same effect as we've seen before. It's not surprising that it's Gemini and it's at the top, right? It's not Llama, right? Or it's not, and then I suppose you will get a lawsuit that says, why can't I choose which AI output I have in that box, right? That's coming. I mean, who's going to file that lawsuit? Right? Anyone in this room? So that's coming, obviously, no? Because it's the same. It's the politics of default, right? So what is the default output, and can that default be changed? Currently, it can't be changed, right? So you see the same patterns. You also see, we don't know if they're volatile. That no one's done that work. I mean, you can do pretty much everything here for the AI box, right? You can say if I query if I make a stereotype soliciting queries, will it provide me with stereotypical outputs or not? What's the is it politically biased? Is disinformation in the outputs? Is disinformation being injected into the AI platforms? You put disinformation on the web on purpose so that it's scraped, so that it gets into the AI platforms. So if you query or if you ask, is Putin right about the war? Then it's Putin's point of view is this, and then right. So I think you could do it all for this little Gemini box.
Okay, we have just the last two questions. Okay, one from her and a comment or a question too.
It's just a follow-up.
Okay, so do you mind if I put her to Você se importa se ela fala antes? Porque é uma conexão, vai dar. Ok.
And a short one, Richard. I'm just curious. I understand that we may and we can apply this 7 critique with Gemini, with search engines outputs, but I wonder if you predict, I wonder if you sense, I wonder if you have like any insights or instincts about new ones, and if you do, what would them be?
New approaches?
Yes, beyond these ones. If you have thought about that, I'm just curious because I can clearly see all of them being.
I mean, so. I mean, I mean, this. It's just the last one that there's a lot of developments around, you know, and whether it branches off into more than, because I've consolidated quite a lot into this other one, because I talk about, you know, editorial epistemologies, but of course they're automated ones as well, right? So it's not. So when we're doing content moderation or value alignment, there are approaches which are based on a human in the loop and no human in the loop, right? So structured data, unstructured data, right? So I suppose that this last one you can break down into you know, more than just editorial epistemologies. I think there's also the question of synthetic data, right? So when we start trying to remove offense by first creating offense and then taking what is offensive and asking then the machine to remove it, I think that's another. I think that's it's another way of doing it. I don't have a label for it yet, but yeah. So there's there's more to this to unpack, is what I'm saying. Yeah. Is there a question over here?
Yeah, actually.
Oh, sorry.
Actually, she was like getting the questions from the audience
nice.
online. Thank you so much. It's Pedro Falcone. He is asking about how this perception of AI, you know, and this kind of approach can influence, for example, in the process of making massive web scraping. For example, when you look to this main artificial intelligence, many of them take data from search engine, like, as you mentioned, Google and Wikipedia. And what do you think this would impact in this process?
So, what's the impact of mass scraping? Is this? Well, I mean, I don't know how to put it politely. I mean, we're ingesting, you know, the crap of the internet, right? So, I mean, so of course, if you look at so this is a whole study. This is a whole area of study, like the training data sets, right? So the basic one, common crawl, you know, the sort of the common crawl. I mean, this has like everything, right? And then there are different training sets that have edited the web, right? So what do? Do you take out the comment space or leave it in? Do you, right? So there are all these different ways of editing the massive common crawl, which is the basis of all the training. So the massive scraping, and of course common crawl is what we know, right? And we don't know exactly, but I mean, we don't have to know exactly what Google has and what Meta has, because it's more or less the same as common crawl. right? So the implication is it lies in the editing. So what are we leaving in and what are we leaving out? And of course, if you're relying on the comment space of 4chan or the image, it depends what you leave in. You get more offense or less offense, right? So this is one thing, and so it's. But then the second thing is, and this is the interesting. I mean, I guess people in this room will have followed it last year. The most, maybe Alan has in particular. The sort of famous AI paper of the year had to do with model collapse, right? So this idea that, and then we have these new Marxist critiques as well of that we've run out of data, and so now in order to feed the machines, we have to produce artificial data, and then this artificial data that's based on the original data will create this situation where the snake is eating its tail, right? And it will get to the point where there is no further improvement, there is no progress, there's only regression as we try to feed the machine with the current paradigms, right? The paradigm is more and bigger and massive data sets, and we've run out. Right? We've run out of data. So the implication of mass scraping is the end of data and the collapse of the machine. I mean, this is, I suppose, number 8, right? Meaning collapse, yeah, right, or semantic collapse. I mean, we did see it. I didn't even really think of it like that. But this is all of these. So these are these auto-completions. Why are Russians so? And then it's like cruel people images. So this is the actual completion, and it's because it has this synthetic data. It's using synthetic data instead of the actual queries. So you're getting like semantically incomprehensibility. Yeah, thank you, Janna. And now I have the 8th one. It's semantic collapse. Yeah.
Thank you. We can't get more questions because of our time, but I would appreciate a big applause for your talk. And I also want you to stay here because we will do a very quick but very special moment now. We are moving to the launch of the Portuguese edition of the book Doing Digital Methods. By Richard Rogers, and I would like you to speak very briefly about your perception or your satisfaction of this translation into Portuguese. How do you think this would impact the readers and the academic sector? And I personally very happy for helping in this process because I really believe that this has a huge impact in our students here at the university, but I'm sure in all the Brazilian Portuguese-speaking community. So before we go to the other room where you guys can get the printed version, and also you're gonna have this version as well as online for free at the publisher website. So this is good too. So if you guys want to get one, of course not for free, okay. If you want a print version, we're gonna just for covering this as the production of the book, we're gonna ask for some cash, but you're gonna have the opportunity to take some pictures with Rogers as well with the book, so get the sign. So it's gonna be a very nice moment with some cocktails as well. But before we go to that situation, I'd like to hear a little bit about your satisfaction or your perception of this moment in here in Brazil regarding the launch of this Portuguese edition.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is hold it up. Thank you. I also want to show you the thickness, which is quite impressive. Actually, I didn't know that. Portuguese is.
We speak a lot.
Okay. So it's a very special moment, Alan. Thank you to the translator. I really appreciate it. Well, I mean, I want to just say, just kind of maybe one significant thing. I mean, it's not necessarily about. It's about the moment that we're in. So. A lot of web and social media data available, and the question that digital methods sought to answer is what to do with that data for research, and it was inspired by a lot of different notions from that period of time, like the mashup. I don't know if do you remember this word, yeah. Right? So because if we have these different data streams, what if we mash them up? Like, and what kind of interesting sort of ideas can come of that? So it came from a period of a lot of data, but now we're in a period of far less, right? But what's interesting about digital methods, and this is something that Janna was mentioned briefly, but also talked about some days ago as well, is that digital methods was not conceived it was not conceived to be an answer to big data. It was always meant to be an answer to however much you have, small even. So it sort of meets the moment as well for now with sort of less. The other thing, and this is actually it's 2 points, sorry. The other thing quickly, the other point is that it sought to address something quite specific about the web, and that's the ephemerality and instability. And so we're in a period of ephemerality and instability again, right? And so it has this sort of this complete outlook and approach for that condition. So what do you do when you're confronted with a new platform? What do you do? So now we're confronted with these new platforms. I mean, I was just mentioning, well, here you go. You can do all this, right? So the outlook is about dealing with instability, ephemerality, novelty, the appearance of a new platform, the appearance of new technology, and what is the approach to that? And I'll give you the answer. I don't want to leave you hanging. I'll give you so the approach is to instead of thinking, oh, my longitudinal approach has just crashed, right? No, what you do is there's a new platform. You say, well, what objects are available? What digital objects or what characteristics or what affordances? And then how can I sort of think about, well, I mean, previously it was like crossing them, but how can I think about meaningfully repurposing them? So it's a digital methods is about repurposing. How can I repurpose them for social and cultural research? So this is the question that one is continually asking when one is using digital methods. The other thing is that since 2016, since the fake news crisis or debacle, digital methods is also about studying the medium. So it's not just about studying it's not about studying societal trends, cultural conditions, with the web, with social media, now with AI platforms, but it's also about like how do we develop critiques of them? This is what I did today. So I didn't do, this is sort of medium research. I didn't do the sort of the societal and cultural. I mean, it's a bit, it's hard to make a clear break between the two. Janna did the societal and so she was using social media data to study what's happening in society and culture, right? This is the medium. This is critiquing the platforms and the. So if one is interested in continuing on in this platform critique and move to AI platforms now, yeah, you're also equipped. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you a lot. Before we go to the next room, we move to next room, I really would like to make some acknowledgement here. I would like to acknowledge to Anne Vitória do Rosário. She was a very, very important. Where is she? Oh, no? She's there? Oh, sorry. She's in the other room, but she was a very important assistant for me in the process of translating. So it was like really necessary to go and back many times. So she helped me like a second vision of all the process. So thanks a lot for Anne. I would like to thank a lot to all the crew, the guys from my research group that helped me to make this thing happen this afternoon. So I would like to thank Beatriz Araújo Panza, she's there. Anne Vitória as well. Carolina Aguiar da Silva, she's not here, but she's following for sure online because she's in the United States now. Carolina Góes Falandes as well here. Marcelo Tenório and Mike Felipe de Souza, where is he? Here. So very special thank for all these guys, please. In the next minutes, we will project here for people that are online the link for make the download of the book, the ebook, as well for audience here, and also to sign their presence in our event. So please, guys, just wait for a while. We're gonna project here. The transmission also wait for a little, please. And I would like now to invite Richard, Janna, and everyone here to the next room for the launch of the book. So who wants to buy the book is gonna be there, and eat some snacks as well. Thank you very much, and see you there.